Some of you are too young to remember the Danish cartoon controversy of 2005. Back in 2005, the staff of the Danish newspaper Jyllands-Posten became concerned about their self-censorship when it came to Islam. They noticed that they had to tiptoe around any issue involving Muhammad, the Quran, or Muslims. They were free to discuss or criticize or even mock just about anything else, but as soon as the topic had anything to do with Islam, they had to impose a strange kind of censorship on themselves. In an epic course correction, the newspaper published a collection of 12 cartoons, several of them featuring Muhammad. The most iconic Muhammad cartoon was drawn by Kurt Westergaard. Westergaard's cartoon wasn't meant to portray Muhammad specifically, but Islamic terrorists in general. But it became the most popular Muhammad cartoon of all time. Kurt Westergaard is now dead at 86. Let's make sure we all remember the stand he took for free speech. From the New York Times. Kurt Westergaard, the Danish cartoonist whose 2005 caricature of the Prophet Muhammad, always good to know that Muhammad was a prophet, wearing a bomb-shaped turban, touched off violent protests by Muslims, prompted a massacre that left 12 people dead at the offices of a French satirical magazine, and made him a target of assassins for the rest of his life, died on Wednesday in Copenhagen. He was 86. His family announced his death to Danish media on Sunday. No specific cause was given. Mr. Westergaard was one of 12 artists commissioned by Jyllands-Posten, a self-described center-right newspaper in Denmark, to draw Muhammad as you see him. The newspaper said the Muhammad cartoons, as they came to be known, although some depicted other figures, were not intended to be offensive, but rather to raise questions about self-censorship and the limits of criticism of Islam. Mr. Westergaard said that when he drew his cartoon, he was seeking to underscore his view that some people invoked the prophet to justify wanton violence. He later explained that the bearded man he had depicted, with a lit fuse protruding from his turban, could have been any Islamic fundamentalist, not necessarily the founder of Islam. Still, many Muslims were outraged because they believed that any images of the prophet, much less one provocatively connected to terrorism, are considered blasphemous. Let me guess, since someone associated your prophet with violence, you're going to respond with a bloodbath. Am I right? In 2006, Danish embassies in the Arab world were attacked in riots that claimed dozens of lives. In 2008, 3 people were charged by the Danish authorities with threatening to murder Mr. Westergaard. 2 years later, a Somali Muslim intruder armed with an axe and a knife penetrated the cartoonist's home in Aarhus, though it was equipped with steel doors, bulletproof glass, and surveillance cameras. At the time, Mr. Westergaard and his 5-year-old granddaughter were cowering in a fortified bathroom. The intruder was shot by the police and later convicted and sentenced to 10 years imprisonment and deportation. Big, tough terrorist picking on an old man and a little girl over a cartoon. Way to show them that there's no connection between Islam and violence. In 2015, 3 Islamic militants stormed the Paris office of the magazine Charlie Hebdo, which had reprinted the cartoons, and killed 12 people, most of them staff members. In an interview with the National Post of Denmark in 2009, Mr. Westergaard expressed disappointment at the reaction to his cartoon by many newcomers to his country. Many of the immigrants who came to Denmark, they had nothing, he said. We gave them everything: money, apartments, their own schools, free university, health care. In return, we asked one thing: respect for democratic values, including free speech. Do they agree? This is my simple test. I don't think they agree, Kurt. The article goes on, but let's read a couple of quotes from Kurt Westergaard. I want to be remembered as the one who struck a blow for free speech, he once said. But there is no doubt that others will instead remember me as a Satan who insulted the religion of 1 billion people. I do not see myself as a particularly brave man, he told The Guardian in 2010, adding, But in this situation, I got angry. It is not right that you are threatened in your own country just for doing your job. That's an absurdity that I have actually benefited from because it grants me a certain defiance and stubbornness. I won't stand for it, and that really reduces the fear a great deal. Kurt Westergaard said he didn't see himself as a particularly brave man, and I think he was right. He was born in the 1930s, so he saw a lot of bravery in his lifetime. It's not that Westergaard was especially brave, it's that we live in a generation where almost everyone in any position of power or influence is especially cowardly. When cowardice is the norm, anyone who's willing to stand up for something suddenly seems like King Leonidas. The darker the night, the brighter the stars. Now, who's going to take his place?